In this lesson, we're going to learn about liquid motion, and this is going to be something you'll be using quite a lot. So we're going to go over 3 different examples and see how we can put these liquid effects onto regular shapes, regular backgrounds, and so much more. Let's get straight into it. We're going to make our composition. I'm going to choose the color white. Want a nice landscape. And let me just show you first what this effect is. I'm going to draw in a regular stroke. So I'll get this red stroke and just draw something like this. Alright, so this is my stroke, and I'm going to simply add an effect that is called, let me actually try this with a easier thing. I'll just get a rectangle. So let's pretend we're doing a transition. Add a fill to the rectangle. Remove the stroke. Okay. I'll make a solid underneath. So that's like our video with the color green. Alright, so let's say I have a green video and I'm going to write a text on top of the green. So I'll write video. Alright, let's center our text. We can't see it because it's underneath the shape layer that we made. This is a text. So these 2 layers are like our video, and we're going to use this shape to make a transition. Close this. So I'm going to hit P on my shape layer for position, and I'm going to make it come from the right. So I'm going to move the slider all the way to the end without the stopwatch. Then turn on the stopwatch, and around maybe 2 seconds, I'm going to make it come back in until it covers my screen again. I'm going to cut this so we only have a short amount of clips to work with. I'm going to grab both keyframes, F9, and now this is our transition. This screen just wipes on, and we're going to make it more fun by adding that liquid effect that we talked about. So we're going to go on our clip, the shape layer, and we're going to go in the effects and presets and search for turbulent displace. It's in the distort tab. Just drag this on top of your shape layer. And let me just play this back. So essentially we get these wiggly lines instead of a straight rectangle edge. Becomes kind of liquidy, and if we work with the effects more, we're going to get a better look. So we can make it even more liquidy, we can make it less wiggly, anything that we want. So I'm going to pause at a point where I can see the wiggles. I'm going to click on this, and let's come up here and see what we can do. So by default, it's set on 50. This is what 50 looks like. If you add to it, it's going to be more liquidy. So you can see the difference, like it's taking over the first clip. We even get, we lost it, oh, there it is. Okay, we even get this extra splash effect, this little dot here, but it's all part of the original rectangle that we made. Alright, so let's go again at a point where I can see the wiggles, and then we can change the size. This is what 100 looks like. If you add it, it's going to be less wiggly because these guys are larger. But generally, if you make it smaller, you're going to get more waves. So it's 52. You can see we get these tiny lines. If you put like 20, it becomes something like this. So I would suggest maybe around 50 to 100, although it all depends on how you want your transition to look. Then we have the offset, which is the turbulence, these guys. You can play around and change the direction that these guys are flying around. These are the X and Y values. You can see this little dot is being directed every time we change this. You can also grab this guy, you like put it here. So it's going to like move towards that direction. You can see they're going downwards. And let's see what else we have. We have complexity, which is just how complex these shapes are. If you add to it, you can see it becomes a little bit more sharp. And if you want them to stay round and bubbly, I would suggest keeping it at 1, a low number. And then we have the evolution, which is just the angle that they travel to. As in, most of them will travel to. I'm going to keep this at 0. I like the way it's traveling. And yeah, so these are just the basic settings. And obviously, if you turn on the stopwatch, it's going to change the whatever setting you have over time. So I'm going to start here. Maybe set the amount to 194. And then over here, I'm going to make it like 300. So if we play this back, you can see, let it render first. Come here. Actually, I will make a 0, not a 0 amount. Let's go for like 30. So we can see how these guys go from being really simple and then slowly proceed to being more complex, which is what would happen if you were to pour a red paint over a green screen. The splashes or the waves wouldn't be identical. At some point they'll be more curvy, at some point they'll be more smooth. So you can play around with these and choose the perfect thing for yourself. So just like this, we created a fun little transition. And then let's say on top of this red video, once it covers our screen, we can add another text. I'm going to click away actually, draw something here. Let's write hello. And then align it in the center. And then we have to offset the hello to the point where the red screen is. So let me just go back and see when it starts. Alright. So just like this, we had our first video. This comes over, and now we have our second clip. So this is just a quick way to show you how this works. Now using the same rectangle technique, we can play around with this. So I'm going to delete my hello layer, the new text layer that we made. And if you duplicate this, let me go in the beginning, or to the point where I can see the waves, Control D or Command D. Let's go ahead and change the color of our second shape, and we're going to just move this bit to the other side, just offset it a few frames like this. So we have like these multicolored waves. And if you want it to be different, it will already be different because the waves are not starting at the same time. But you can also change the settings for the blue one, maybe make it more smooth. And you can just do as many duplicates as you want. I'm gonna make another, let's go for yellow, another yellow one. Alright, I'm gonna bring this to third. And now we have these multicolored transitions. And the one on top is going to be the final color. So if you want it to be red, you would have to bring the red one on top. But now it's yellow. Alright, so this is how the turbulence effect works. Let's look at how we can use it in other examples. Going to delete all of these guys, except the green solid. Hit backspace to delete them. And I'm actually going to make a white solid. Make it white. Then delete the green solid. I'm going to lock my white solid because this is our background, and then I cannot do anything with it because it's locked. Now let's look at how we can use this with strokes. I'm going to grab the pen tool, remove the fill because we want to make a stroke, not a shape. Add that in. Let's go for the color red, that's okay. And I'm just going to draw in a regular line. It's like kind of curve it out so it has that fun effect. Come here, maybe curve it up here so we have somewhat a spiral looking shape. Right, before I start, I'm going to change the butt cap to round. So open shape 1, stroke 1, come down to line cap and change it to round. So it becomes circles. This is what it was before. I'm going to leave it to round cap because we're going for that fun round shape. We want to make sure that our stroke looks the same. Alright, so using the effect we learned previously, which is the trim paths, I'm going to just add the trim paths. Oops, it's down here. Open this guy up, go to add trim paths, and we're just going to add a nice little animation. So hit 0 for end, turn on the stopwatch, and we're going to come around here, make it 100. And then we're going to come a little bit further from the end and then start the start keyframe. Then come to the end of the clip, which is 100. Easy ease all of the keyframes by hitting F9, and we have this little line just traveling around. Right, so it goes in the shape that we created, but it's not exactly the whole thing. It's like a little line, and if you move these guys around, like move this, you can see we're making it longer, but if you maybe add some distance, you're going to make them shorter. So I'm going to just make it short. Don't want it to be that long. So I'm going to like do something like this. You can see easily it's a lot shorter than it was, and we have this little fun line traveling around. Right, now that we have this, we can hit M on our shape layer. Let's call this line. On our line layer and add the turbulence displace effect on top. So this is what it would look like. You can see it's not exactly that perfect line, but it's kind of wiggly, it's kind of squishy, and it just looks a lot more fun. So we can again go to a point where we can see our turbulence and then maybe add to the effect. You can see it becomes more splash-like. You can reduce the size if you want. You're going to get like a lot of waves. Add to it to make a more smooth color, to a more smooth shape. Maybe add to the complexity, and the possibilities are just endless. So this is what mine looks like. It's kind of like stops at some point because the shape is big and our line is rather small. So I know that I would have to choose something appropriate for my shape. I'm going to leave the size to 100 and leave the amount to 100 as well. Change the complexity to 1. So this is okay for me. It's a simple line, but it's kind of going around and it just has this fun effect. And yeah, so we can also kind of make the shape appear in. So hit S on your keyboard, 0, turn on the scale, and then we're going to make it come in a few seconds and then make it 100. Come to the end, although it does disappear itself, but I want it to kind of bounce outwards. So I'm going to add a scale effect, like so. So it comes in. It's rather small. Let's increase it. You can see it like pops in. Although the anchor point is here, we have to bring the anchor point here. I'm going to just add the scale for the first part and not the last part. So it's going to come in from there, do its thing, and then it'll just go away at the end. Just like that. Right, and again you can duplicate this, Control D, maybe change the color. Let me go to the pen tool, change the stroke to something else, blue, move it a few frames back. And remember, this also has the scale because we copied this, so don't worry about that. Hit M. And let's see. we now have two colors following each other like that. So this would be a fun idea. Maybe you want to do an animation for maybe a country's flag. You would use the country's colors and then it would just like merge into the country's flag. It's an example of how you could use this effect with the strokes. Maybe you could just write something here and just do whatever you like. All right, now we're going to do something with a little different. Right now we work with shapes and the pen tool. Now let's work with the whole screen essentially. So I'm going to delete all of these except the white solid. I can't even delete it because I locked it in place. All right, now let's get to the other example. We're going to make a solid apart from our original background. Let's call this gradient. Okay, and then we're going to go in the effects and presets and search for 4-color gradient. Drag it on top of the gradient layer. Basically, we get these 4 colors in each corner, and they're kind of blended in when they come towards the center. So that is what creates this gradient effect. So we have some options here. You get to obviously change the colors. This is not to my liking. So just click on any of these. And we also have the eyedropper tool. I'm going to just bring in some hex codes for decent gradient colors. Then I'll be back so we can get some nice colors instead of really vibrant colors, which is not going to look cool with the effect that we are about to do. So I brought in this color palette. It's available in your resource pack if you choose to use it. And we're just going to go in, I'm going to bring effects control here for a second. And I'm going to get the eyedropper tool and just select any of these colors. And you can see it changes. Grab the second one, choose another one, that one, maybe this color. Let's get a dark color as well. Let's try the blue here. Okay, I'm going to go back with the dark color so we can tell, we can easily differentiate the colors. Then I'll just bring this back here. And yeah, we don't need the color palette anymore. All right, so we have this gradient effect. You can see it's just still. But as you notice, there are keyframes or stopwatches next to each of the colors and their points. So that means we get to animate them, kind of move them around. So go in the beginning of your timeline, and I'm going to start with the point 1, turn on the stopwatch, and just move in maybe to the end of our clip. And you can see the color. So this is point 1, and you just want to move it around very randomly. And now we have this color just slowly making its way to the center. But because it's gradient, you may not see the movement that much, but it's going to look cool in our effect. I'm going to go to the next point. We've got this cyan color. Come to the end and just move that here maybe. Let's go maybe next to the sky. The third point, come into the end. I believe it's this purple guy. Let's move it here. And finally, the 4th point. Now the color stopwatches is also something you can use. It will look fun. So for the color stopwatches, I'm going to maybe click on this, copy the code here, Control-C or Command-C, and turn on the color 1 stopwatch. And I'm going to maybe slowly transition it, maybe around 2 seconds, into our pasted hex code. So you can see it's like slowly becoming this dark color. I also want to do the exact same thing with the other one. So I'm going to go in here, copy the purple color that we have, and then turn on color 4, which is the darkest one here. Then come in the end to just turn it, or actually 2 seconds, not the end, and just paste the purple color. So now we have this kind of switching motion that looks cool. And I'm also going to do it with the other colors. So for color 3, I'm gonna, copy this cyan color. Color 3, move it to the end. where's color 3? There it is. Control V. And then we're going to get this purple color. Control C. Color 2. Move to the end. Turn this into that purple. So we have a lot of movements. These colors come together and they kind of like switch places, which looks cool. You can do as many color keyframes as you want. You can maybe add a whole different palette halfway through. Just do anything that suits you. All right, so now that we have our gradient, we want to add the effect of that liquid motion. So create a new adjustment layer on top of your gradient. And we are going to add something called CC Smear. This guy, drag it on top of this. We get this little line that is smearing things. This is the second point, so you can see it's kind of smearing the colors. And we're just going to make the radius really large. It's okay if it kind of lifts up the colors. That's to be expected. Just turn off the white solid because the composition background is also white. And for this example, we don't really need a background, so I'm going to delete that. So we had this, and I'm going to turn on the stopwatch of from and to, which is this guy, from to, move in, maybe towards the end, and we're just going to kind of maybe do something like this. Don't worry about this, it's natural. And basically it's moving in like so. And I'm going to hit U on this again. For the first keyframes, I'm going to delete it. And we make another keyframe like this, maybe. It's all random, so you can see it kind of shifts upwards. And now we're going to add another smear. CC Smear on top of gradient, the adjustment layer. We call this liquid effect, top of liquid effect, and then smear 2. It's the same thing, but we want to move it to another side. Let's go in the corner. Again, make the radius quite large. And let me go for around close to what we have for the first example. 815, and then we're gonna turn on from and to again and just do what we were doing, maybe like bring it backwards, something like this, and then move it to the end and create another weird movement like this. So this is all we have. It's a weird gradient motion. It's getting squished, it's getting bigger, and just it's a weird thing. And this is going to look cool because it resembles that liquid effect. All right, now that we did the smearing part, we're going to do something else. Add another effect called motion tile. Put this on top of liquid effect, and this goes on top of the smear things. All right, let me just close these. We don't need the smears for now. And we're going to change the output width to something big. 300 maybe. And the output height, something bigger as well. So you can see it kind of expanded that. But we have this rough line that's not looking good, so just hit mirror edges. And now you can see it mirrored that. And it just looks cool. We have a liquidy effect. So this was without the motion tile. This is with the motion tile. And there we are. All right. We added the motion tile. Now we need to add another effect, which is the effect we learned about, I guess, the focus of this lesson, which is the effect turbulent displace. Place that on top of the liquid effect. And what we're going to do is to just bring this up here, open it up. We already learned how to work with this, but instead of turbulent, we're going to set this to horizontal displacement. Or you could do vertical, just anything you want. It's basically the direction of the displacement. I'm going to go with horizontal, so it's like this way. And we're going to, again, set the amount to a really high number, like we did with all the other smear effects. And the size needs to be big too. Just gonna make it like random color, random number. It doesn't have to be a specific number, just the bigger, the more liquidy it's going to look. And complexity, you want to add to that. Not too much, we just want to see this liquid effect. Make sure you're not exposing the white that's underneath. All right, and we have the evolution. You can change this around. Again, watch out for those white things. Gonna come maybe -7. Let's see how this looks. You can see it has this liquid effect. It's kind of rendering right now. We'll let it render and we can see what we did. There it is. You can see it has a liquid effect, and because we changed the colors, it's kind of like this dark blue is going down the drain. But yeah, so you can see we added a nice little liquid effect. This could be a cool background. If you change this to vertical, it's going to look like this, but we have to change some settings. But you can just play around. You can maybe add a smooth effect. I'm going to stick with horizontal. If you did choose another one and you saw those white things, all you have to do is just go back and maybe reduce the smear and maybe the turbulent displace. So just bring them back to a lower number, and that way you can avoid exposing those white things. All right, so this is what we have right now. It's a cool little effect, like so. And if you want, you can go ahead and add different effects on top. We already learned about glow, but you can see it kind of glows now. It looks like this. It's taking the gradient colors and it's adding that glow effect to it. You can obviously reduce the glow if needed. Let this load. And you can see we have a glowy liquid effect. You can remove the, add to the threshold, not remove. Maybe 88. I'm gonna go through my clip and see if that's okay. And yeah, this runs for longer because our clip is that long. I'm gonna let it render. And we have a really nice glowing gradient background, which is in the form of a liquid paint. That's like paint pouring on the solid. I'm not too happy with the glow. You can increase the radius 40. Let's go for 40 and yeah, maybe add to the intensity. There we are. So we can just play around with all of these effects. We added 5 effects right now and just see what works best for your preference. Right, so this was another effect. Let's add like a text on top. Get the Align tab. Let's add a more appropriate text, like welcome. The font is not suitable. Let's choose something else. All right, I guess this will do. Again, bring it forward, and I'm going to offset this. Hit T on my keyboard, 0. Make it slowly appear. And there we have our work. You go back. So it slowly appears. The more you expand these two, the slower it will come in to frame. So you saw that with just a few effects and some adjustments, we created this I would say expensive looking background. something you would see in like an exhibition. It's like a background, and maybe you want to introduce the people or something. So this is how you could also use the turbulent displace effect onto regular solids. All right, now finally, let's go for the last example. I'm going to delete, first make a solid color, and then delete the rest. All right, now the third one, the last one, is going to be related to the text tool. We learned about the shape tool, the pen tool, and the just regular solids with the gradients. And now we're going to learn about the text tool. All right, so we have our solid. Let's get our text tool and just write something. Let's write text. And I gotta change the color. Let's go for red. I'm gonna make it all in caps and make it bold. Center my text. Center my text, and let's just make it a little bigger. All right, so we have our text, and what we want to do now is to just get a rectangle. Let me first pre-compose my text. Right click on your text layer, hit pre-compose. And I'm just going to deselect this. So this text is its own comp right now. It's not a regular text layer. Now let's make a rectangle. This is going to be the wavy effect. We're going to, that's a mask. Let me actually change the colors a bit. I'm going to make my text white and make my solid another color. Let's go for solid. Let's go for black. Or maybe a purple color. I want the text to stand out, but not to the point where the background is kind of hard to look at. All right, now I'm going to pre-compose my text. Do that, and I'm going to call this BG for background. Now let's get the rectangle tool without selecting any layer, and we're going to make a rectangle like so. I'm going to add a fill. We don't want a stroke, so just turn off the stroke. We have this shape right now. Let me make a new one so it fills the entire screen. There we are. Hit V, and we're going to kind of make this text move up and down with the position like we did with the, I believe, first or second example. So I'm going to just bring this guy up. Let's go down actually. Move this guy down, and we're going to turn on position and then move it back up. Just until it goes over the text. We don't want to go all the way to the end. And should have made this like this. Forgot to move in a couple frames. Move up and then bring the text. So we have a motion like so. F9, and we're just going to change this to white actually. So this rectangle just comes on top, and there we are. Going to just trim my workspace, maybe 2 seconds. And now we're going to add the turbulent effect that we talked about. Let's type in turbulent displace, put it on top of the layer. And now we have this wiggly lines. And here you get to change it if you want. I'm going to add to the amount so I get like a rough wave. And then on the evolution, we're going to go in the beginning and hold down Alt and click on the stopwatch. So turn it on and then just do it down here. What we want to do is to just write time Astrid 500. Right? Click away. And that's what we're going to get. So now that we have this, we are going to just duplicate our text layer. Control D. And we're going to bring the shape underneath text 2. Alright, and then we have our text 2. I just brought this guy, turn it to layer name. Want to make sure your shape is underneath the text. And I'm going to turn this off for a second. I'm going to need this later. So turn this back on. And what I want to do is to just bring this under text comp 1. And you want to change the alpha matte, the track matte here. If you're not seeing this, hit this guy. So now it's here. And change this to alpha. So once you play this, you can see like it fills up like that. If you want it to be, let me expand this. So it comes like this. If you want it to be slower, you just have to hit P on your shape layer to find the positions and just kind of expand this if you want it to be slow. So once you play this back, you can see that it's very slow and it appears at some points. But what I want to do is to just create a keyframe, like delete this keyframe and make the new keyframe somewhere from below the text so we don't have to wait that long. So now it's just coming from here and slowly filling up. Again, if you want it to be faster, just bring these two closer. Alright, so this is good for me. I'm going to expand my timeline. And now we're going to pre-compose these two together. Hit M on that one. Hit both of them, right click, pre-compose. Again, just use these settings. We can call it effect. Hit that, we have effect, and now I'm going to get the text layer on top. And let me go for fill. So put that on top of the effect, and I want to change the color. This red will do. So essentially, what's happening here, let me bring this down. So what's happening here is that we have a red thing filling up our text layer. As you can see, it's filling it up. And you can always just go back and go to the effect and change the color. I'm going to go for a better looking color, like this blue. Alright, and like the previous example, you can always duplicate and add more to this effect. So Control D on the effect and maybe offset it a couple times, get like 3, 4 maybe. And if you go in each one, they all have to fill. So just go in each one and add a separate color. Go for like a greenish color here. Just randomly selecting them. You can obviously just bring in a color palette like we did last time and choose colors that you're happy with. I choose like a bright color here. And finally, let's go for this orange color. I'm going to go in the text position. So we don't need that anymore. And basically we have multiple colors filling up our text. And the last color, which was this orange color that we chose, it's basically going to be the final color. And if you don't like the way it's moving, so if you did want to change this, you would have to do it before you pre-comp these. So if you don't like the waves, we already learned how to adjust the waves into turbulent displays. It would change the amount, but I'm just going to stick with what we have here. And if you choose a bubbly font, it's going to look better than it is right now. And yeah, so this is what we have right now. It's just multiple colors filling up our text. And it's as if this purple color that we have for the background is actually a container for the colorful liquids in the background. So this was how the liquid motions work. We went over a few examples and they're rather easy. Stop this. And yeah, so that's how the turbulent displace works. When you combine it with other effects that we already learned about, it's going to look even cooler. And now you can add these effects to your work and it's going to be great. And I did want to try one last effect. So I'm going to just delete everything except the background. Get the whites and I'm going to click away first so I can make a shape. Turn off the fill, a stroke, want a nice big thickness. Come around and I want it to kind of disappear at times into the edges of my screen. Cut the handle. And yeah, just a regular spiral effect. Open this guy up. Again, we're going to change the cap into round cap like we did with the first example. And I'm going to add the trim paths effect. This is optional. It just looks really cool, so that's why I'm constantly adding it. 100%. Come into 0. So it's going to come, although I did the opposite, just bring 100 here. Oops. Bring it to the beginning. So it's going to come out like that. Then we're going to do the start with 0 here, 100 here. F9 on those keyframes. And we have something like this, which we already learned how to do. This is nothing new. But I just want to add roughened edges to this. Come up to find my shape. And I don't know if you noticed, but it made the edges a little wiggly. So we can make it spiky, rusty, anything that works for you. I'm going to just make it rough and maybe add to the border. So we're seeing more of that. We don't want to sharpen the edges. Maybe add to the scale. This is another way that you can kind of add those rough edges, but you can see this is not moving, so it's not exactly alive like it would be with the turbulent displace. When you combine these two, you're going to get a better outcome. That's just in my opinion. So you're going to get like a rough thing. Just have to, I think the border is a bit much. I'm going to reduce it. I want a softer look. Alright, and for the amount, I'm going to make it less than 50. But the size, I want to make it a little smaller. Or should we go for something big? I guess slow will do. Complexity, let's add some. So this is if you want like a sharper look. And again, Alt click on the evolution stopwatch, time Astrid 500. Click away. And you get this moving liquid line, kind of like glue, which is again something you can do. It's a lot more smooth this way when you combine different effects on top of one another. And again, you can just come back and change the things if you want. I'm going to look at the offset. So for the previous example where the text was kind of like that, this is where you would change it. You can see I'm moving the waves. And this way I can choose any part that I like, and then I can just pre-compose my thing and move on with the rest of the things I need to do. Close this. And now we have a rather glowy effect. Speaking of glow, I would say bubbly effect. It's not really glowing until we add a glow effect. And I would have to change the color of this shape if I want the glow to show up more. Yeah, it's something like this. So you can see it's glowing on the edges right now. If I want to remove add to the threshold, we're getting these dark lines on the edges. And you can do that. Composite original. You can go like that. So we have like this glowing effect on the edge. Again, optional. I'm just showing how you can combine different effects to create something that you like. I'm going to change this back to white actually. So now it looks better. We have a glowing white effect and it disappears in the center of our clip. We could even make it disappear to the edge, to the other end of our clip, but that's just something you can do yourself. So that was the liquid motion lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys in the next one.